Oh, there we go. Cool. Rightio. Let's go, Mason.
Yeah, good, mate.
Hey, good to see you again. Rightio. We'll give it a minute. Hope everyone's good. Ready to learn something from the man, the myth, the legend. You're not even listening. Anyway. Right. So I think a few of you guys have been in here before, but if you haven't, if you go down the bottom, you can open your chat bar. Let's just go over the formalities. So you can, if you have a question while Mason's doing his thing, you can just type your question in there. Alternatively, if you hit the participants button as well, you'll see on the left hand of your little options, there's a raise hand. If you click the raise hand button, it will notify us here, and then we can open your mic and you can ask Mason your question. For those of you who don't know, this is Mason Corby. He's a bit of an Aussie legend. He runs Down Under Dynamics and he knows his shit. It's probably enough from me, Mason.
I hope so. How you going? I hope I know my shit. How you going, guys? Yeah, Mason, I'm from Australia, if you don't know us. Run Down Under Dynamics and one of the events called Foot Fetish as well, which is a head-up only event. It's all about head-up tracking. Unfortunately, that was meant to be on this week as we speak, so I guess I'll give some information away now instead. So, yeah, I guess I can start off. I'll start off with some screen sharing. Are you good for me to start now, Chris? Or
mate, it's all yours. Go for it.
Sweet as. All right, so I'll start with some screen sharing. How I'm going to do this today is I'll run over a couple different things. So you can see my computer here now.
Yeah, mate, it's popped up.
Cool. So I'll start off with talking about levels, and then we're going to go through some general controls, and then we'll talk about exit, and then I've got a couple of little extra things to go over as well. So when you talk about levels, it's the same kind of thing as general angle flying. So you can see the diagram here where you have the horizon, you have the vertical line, if we're just doing vertical freefall, and then you have a tracking direction. Okay, so the green guys are on their belly, so belly head-up tracking, and the blue guys are on their back, so back head-up tracking. So this would be known as in-face carving in the tunnel, and this is out-face carving in the tunnel. The red dudes are in the no-fly zones. So the reason I have it like this, so you probably see as well, some jumps, they have people lying this way. That's fine as long as everyone is in that same line, okay, rather than having some people on this line of flight and another couple of people on this line of flight. The reason is if someone's down here and another guy's here, if he corks, because of this flight of direction, he's going to cork straight into this dude, okay, because we're not actually moving this way, we're moving this way. Okay, so it's the same for old matey here, and it's the same for here. So he might not hit anyone, but if one of these guys cork out, then they're going to hit them. Same, vice versa here. So it's really important to try and keep in these areas along here. Okay, so that way, if you do lose height, come back up onto level, and then you start approaching across. So it's the same as vertical jumps or belly jumps or anything on level, then make your approach. Okay, so it's really important to get on level first. We'll go over that soon on how to different ways to get on level. So that's just the general gist of that in a diagram form. Okay, does anyone have any questions on this real quick? No, not that I can see. This is just checking for us. I'll go over, I'll show a picture of this now, okay? So, sorry, video of this. So this is from one of the last foot fetishes that we're going. So please bear with the skatiness of the footage. All right, and you'll see what I mean by these levels. Okay, so you can see now how these guys here, they're not low. They're actually quite up high, and you can see the horizon on along, and you can imagine that line from the horizon's coming straight to the feet. Now, if I'm going to be picky, the guy who's filming this, he may be slightly higher. The person who's on their belly, they want to have their head around the same height as that container there. Okay, so you can see here, so they're all quite level. Not too bad. Bogues is out the back, he's on level 2. Okay, so that's one extreme version. Okay, we'll look at another one here. This is from the first foot fetish. And you'll see this one, it's going to be slightly different. Okay. So these are 3 groups. It is a bit over. And what I'm talking about here, guys, I'm not going to be talking about the vertical head up flying. I'm really starting to talk about how to control it going flat, because going vertical is one thing, but actually starting to move across the sky in a flatter orientation, that's quite difficult. So that's what we're talking about now. That's where we start getting the more range and the more kind of controls is what we need. So if you look on this one, if we start talking about levels, you can see these couple people down here. So this is where they don't want to be. So rather than approaching straight to the formation, they're going to want to go back up on level first and then approaching from on level, rather than trying to approach in from the bottom. See 1, 2, 3. Now, if we start seeing later on, we might see the guy on his belly, strop here. He's a little bit higher, so he wants to be down on level. The same as what I think, I can't remember who his name is here, Steve over here. Keith's leading this group, and Steve's perfect on level. So you can see 1, 2, then Larissa. One's a little bit too low if he's in this group, so he wants to be up. So it kind of makes sense, hey? So really keeping on that horizon level, and then you can make your approach there rather than trying to approach from below. The reason is below, if you try to approach from here and you start arching the body in more of an arch kind of position, it's actually going to just start taking you back. Okay, so rather than approaching, once you come on that level, it'll be much easier. I'm going to go through the controls on how to do that in a sec. The main thing I want to cover first is just mainly, there we go, making sure the levels are good. Keep watching here. Cool. So you can see everyone's pretty good on level, but once they start sinking, it's a lot harder to catch up. All right, so that's the head levels. All right, if we're going to start moving controls, this is where it starts getting a bit tricky. So I will first talk about, let's bring up, go back slightly, bring up this picture. Let's stick this one up here in the corner, just as a reminder for people to kind of see that with what I'm talking about. And we'll go the controls here, and let's talk about up and down. So there's many ways you can get on level from this position here. If you start doing an arched position, this is going to cause drag at the back. Can you see my hand as well, Chris, or in the video, or no one can see that? Yep, cool. So if I have my position flat like this and I start arching, because if we're moving along this direction and I start causing drag at the back, it's actually going to start pulling me back this way. If I'm maintaining speed and doing this, it could scoop me up as well. Just the same as when you're in a canopy, you're flying the canopy and you're coming along and you flare, you have that little bit of a pop-up when you pull the back of that canopy, so it actually starts flaring. That's essentially what's happening here. You can do that from that, or you can release the front of the feet and changing your pitch this way, and this will also take up. That's a lot harder to do in the beginning. That's why you'll see a lot of people flying vertical and flying like this, and they're moving across the sky this way. Whereas at the moment, we're trying to do this. So if we're on that flat level, just like these pitches in the red, this technique we can do, which really, really, really helps. You watch me just here, and you'll see this technique. I'm just using my legs. Now, by using just the legs, you can see how it exposes the center of the crutch and the inside of the legs, and you're able to stay on that pitch in spot, moving up and down. So this is how you can also change your pitch to go back up and change that level. So if you are low, just spread your legs. Try as much as you can not to twist and contort the profile of the side body, rather than just opening the legs and closing the legs. And this can bring you up this way. There's many techniques, hey, so there's no right or wrong. This technique just does that.
Hey Mason,
Cool. So
we've
that's
got a couple of questions in the chat box.
Yeah, for sure. Where are they?
I'm gonna have a look.
So I'll bring this chat back up. So I need to figure out this stuff, guys. Happy thumbnail. Oh. Chat. There we go. All right. So welcome. The picture is hidden by the screens. Ah, sweet. Do you have a side picture on head up of leaning? Yes, I will get to that for sure. That's coming. So I have a question. Do you have a side on picture of head up, leaning and pushing? So I'll get to that one. I'll show you that soon. And the picture is hidden by the screen. So I'll try to fix that one a little bit. If the picture is hidden by your screens, you can move the screen around and your screen around as well, guys, just to make sure that it might not be blocking as well. So please bear with us because this is only my second time using Zoom. All right, I'll get back to this. All right, so that's that one. Now, oops, shit, I don't want to leave the meeting. All right, so this is probably something here. So this might be a side view of what you guys were asking. Okay, so so this is me and Antonio. Please bear with it for a sec. All right, cool. So you can see here it's a little bit more arching. Okay. So as I said, there's nothing wrong with arching as well. Each thing has its purpose. Because you'll have more drag here, you can see it's pretty much almost back flying. So if I'm essentially back flying, all I've done is dropped my heels slightly, and this is now making me move forward. So if I'm flat, slightly tilt, and then that drives me. So the speed, depending on how flat you are, isn't going to be as much of a fast forward speed. It will be a bit slower. So to generate more forward speed, you need to make sure you do have a vertical and then you go flat slowly. So you'll see here with the things I want you to notice, rather than thinking too much about the side body, because the side body, we want to try and as much as we can get out of arching. Arching is generally, if you start trying to contort this, contort this, contort this, contort this, it's too much movement. Maintain as much as you can the straight and just doing up and down with changing the legs and just leaning back. Now you'll see on this footage here, I'm not necessarily pushing my arms back as much. Sorry, I'll jump back slightly for this. I want you to watch the legs. So I'm quite flat. In a second, these two legs, the heels, they'll go steeper and you'll see me start dropping away. See how that happened there slightly? So the controls of the pitch controlled with the legs. As I've started doing this, I've noticed transition to come back up. Flat is a bit easier to come up. So I'm going to go into this position later on. Same thing again. Okay, so now in a second, I use another technique to come up, and this will be dropping the arms. So before I talk just about the legs, now if you watch the arms, the elbows will come down because at the moment they're slipstream. As soon as the elbows come in, you cause that drag along the tricep, and this starts dragging back as well. Oh, sorry, I'm talking out my ass. Maybe that happens on the next part. Here we go. So there, right there. Okay, I've sunk out, I've gone too much. Pull the elbows back and that slightly pops you up. So there's the two controls you can use. You can use the legs to pop up or you can use the arms to pop up. I really highly try to recommend everyone to try and stop arching. The arching is just going to cause a lot of disturbance within the main body flying. I have another question, yes. Ah, sorry, that's from someone else writing. All right. Okay, so the controls, a lot of it comes from those legs. Generally, a lot of the time what happens is a lot of people will try to really push their arms back on the wind and to come forward. And essentially what's happening when you push your arms on the wind, you're causing drag. So drag is going to slow you down. It's the same as when you pull the toggles on a canopy, you're going to slow yourself down. So if you start feeling pressure or contortion or feeling any drag or any effort like this and tension in the muscles, generally what's happening is you're slowing yourself down. So the less drag and slip you have, like slipstream you have, the better it's going to be. So the less pressure, the better. Okay, so we'll go from getting back from a bad exit. So this is getting back from this position here in the red getting back from this position, okay? So this is a bit extreme, as I said, but I'll try and break it down as much as I can. All right, so you can see here now straight away, the person's a lot more forward. Sorry, I'll open this up again. So I'm a lot forward. So I'm actually in this position here. Okay, so my feet are kind of matched. You can almost see the sky below. So if we start playing again, I'm trying to come back. I can't quite come back. Kind of rocking, still not working, almost looks head down. So what happens now, and what I've done is I've let my legs go above my head. So my body's almost in orientation where my legs are above my head. So I've changed, if the angle's tracking this direction, I've changed my body to this. So I've gone like this and I've started flying back this way. So that's the other one, the alternate one, rather than using legs and using your arms, you can turn the body this direction, and this is going to allow you to slip back. So watch how quickly this happens now.
Mason, do you mind explaining that for anybody who might be watching this webinar as a recording, just what were you saying about how you move your body, because they might not be able to see you explaining with your hands.
Yep, for sure. Hang on, I'll try and stand up and do it. It's going to stop the video share real quick. And sorry guys, I'm just trying to get my video back on.
Yeah, you're good. We can see you.
I'm good. You can see me? Okay.
Yep.
Cool. Cool. Jeez. All right. So what I mean by the hands is rather than make me work for it now. Right. So rather than doing this, essentially, I've got my legs and I'm doing this and just letting the legs go. So rather than trying to push the hips forward, letting the legs go. So essentially what I'm doing is I'm corking on purpose. So rather than trying to fight the cork, you just embrace the cork and let yourself go up. And that's the hardest thing to do that we found flying head up is that corking on purpose. Is because if we try to force to go up or do something like this, it just doesn't work. Like you get stuck. So like I'm going to cork when I try to go up, that's essentially what we're doing. We're trying to cork. So you can see here once that answers the question. No? Yep, I'm guessing somewhere.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you're right. So you can see here now, once I'm in this level, then I can start moving forward, and it's much easier once you're on that horizon. A lot easier. So I know the skill levels are slightly different and stuff like this, but essentially from what we found from teaching so many people is once they're on that horizon level, motoring across becomes easy. You can push your hips forward and it's gonna work. It's still gonna work. It's just level, as long as you're on level. You can see that approach makes it much quicker. I'll explain something slightly here, real quick, just about this position here. Hopefully that's not too foggy for people. No, yep, there we go. Sorry, I'll do it later on, guys. Sorry, that's a bit foggy. Okay, gaining lift in face. So I know some of this is a bit technical too, guys. This is another one for gaining that lift. You can see how flat he is here. Now, the other key one is the arms. What I want you to notice with the arms on the in-face head up is the position of the arms and the position of the head. It's very, very difficult when you're moving head up in face to see where you're going. This is just how it is. There's no two ways about it. It sucks. You can't see. Get used to it. If you want to fly the position good, you're not going to be able to see much. Okay, so you really want to try and look under and behind the arms. This way you can see with Antonio here, his legs are all in line with his head. He doesn't have his arms pushing against the wind. He's stretching his arms higher. This is because his arms and his legs are in wind line, the same as this. If he pushes his arms back, it's going to cause him drag and he's going to slow down. And he's not going to have enough speed to gain that lift and that momentum to come up. Whereas if he changes the legs and allows himself to come up, letting the arms be relaxed, it's going to push him forwards a lot more. If he starts moving his head forward, he's going to sink out because he's essentially de-arching or arching with his shoulders, which will sink him. So trying to keep this as flat as possible and controlling the lift with the legs, not trying to use the arms, is the key. So you can see how relaxed his arms are, and you can see mine here as well. So head's still back, looking back behind. This is where we're trying to go flatter. So right now, we'll see I'm starting to struggle to keep up with him. And he boosts away, and this is the arch that I'm talking about here. You'll notice what he doesn't do is he doesn't arch his hips. The hips stay neutral. Nothing happens to them. The arch comes from the bend in the knees. So this is the same as what we would do if we were flying and see a lot of people learning to track. See a lot of people learning to track on their back, head down, and they're quite arched. There's nothing wrong with being arched. It's a little less efficient position, but it still works. And that's essentially what he's doing here. He's arched the legs behind the knees, and this is what's giving him that extra lift. I'll rewind it slightly again. And he's just got that slight more of a boost up, and then he's returned to normal. He's got more of a boost up. You'll see here, the thing that happens at the same time as him boosting his knees, I sink out because I've started adding this tension and started pushing on the wind. As you can see, I've got a bit of a strong hand, like the scary movie, take my strong hand, and started sinking out because of this. So this is also hard to do. So relaxing is the key, and learning to control wigs, not the arms. I'd say that's by far the key for head up moving. No questions. So anyone got any questions for that? For moving forward, backwards?
Yeah, Mason, we've got a question from Andrew. He's asked about in-facing and if there's a place or spot that you can look to make it a bit easier for you. Like, where would you focus visually? He's saying he's struggling with it a little bit and, you know, just finding it hard to deal with.
Yeah, for sure. It sucks. That's probably the hardest. So if I'm going to sit here like this, my wing, turn my body. Yep. So generally my arms are here and I'm looking down that way through my nose. So all I'm going to be able to see of the person who's leading most likely is just the top of their head. Just that's it.
Sorry.
If I've got some better, yep.
Sorry, do you mind stopping your screen share for this? And then we'll be able to see you if we're watching it from recording. Thanks.
You're right. Screen share. Sorry guys, as I said, I'm getting used to these. Where do I stop share? Okay, excellent, cool. So I'm looking straight down the body. The key from what I find is the head is to release the tension of the head and let that sit back and then looking. Because a lot of the time what people will tell you to do is they'll tell you to put your head back. And by essentially doing this, I'm really wearing a horrible shirt for this. Essentially by putting my head back, I've now arched my shoulders. Arched my shoulders. So I'm going to sink by pulling my chin back. I don't want to put my head back because by putting my head back, I've now just gotten rid of and hid the corner of this, so I'm not getting any direct airflow. So what I want to think about doing is getting the crown of my head, pulling the crown of my head up and stretching out. And by stretching out, then you can tip your whole body like this rather than doing this or doing this. So we're trying to maintain just a good posture. Once the posture is maintained, and then you're tipping and turning the torso rather than trying to arch and change the profile of your body. It's the same essentially as flying a canopy. For all those that either fly a plane or a canopy, like I can see Adam sitting here, flies planes. Like we all fly a canopy. We don't want to be on those toggles too much, especially when we're in the turn. We can start the turn with our canopy, but we're not changing the profile of it until we come out to land. If we start disturbing it while it's in the turn, we're going to start changing the profile. We're going to start ruining the aerodynamics of it, and it's going to start getting more turbulence and stuff like this. So we're aiming to keep as much of a nice streamlined profile with the body, having the wind hitting from the tip and then spilling out. So all our controls comes from the tip, comes from the feet. If we're controlling it with the rear too much and the front's just static and stable, you're going to be a lot more prone that when the legs do come and have wind, it's going to kick out and it's going to flop out a lot more likely to flop out than rather than controlling it like this.
Question there, Mason.
Yep, sure.
How do you manage to keep a 45-degree angle? This is from Romain, sorry. How do you manage to keep a 45-degree angle so that your leg doesn't go up and come back flat? Be more tensed in your legs?
No, relaxed. Yeah, you want to be as relaxed as you can. If you're tense, generally that means you're trying to hold the wind as much as you can. It's going to cause tension. It's the same as if you're driving a car down the road and you're holding as tight as you can, and then you hit a bump, you're going to wobble. So it's very difficult in the beginning saying, like, it's like catch-22, just relax. It's what we always say. So an easy way to think about this, if everyone's sitting here, squeeze your fist as hard as you can and notice the tension in your arm, okay? And then relax that tension. That's what we mean by relax. We don't mean limp or anything like this. We just mean become aware of the tension that's in the body. It's the same as if you're sitting here right now and you can feel the different muscles in your stomach that are holding you and keeping you up to sit up straight. Some people might be slouching. Other people might have more tight muscles in their back. So it's really just being aware of which muscles are firing at which time. Are you firing the right muscles in the legs first, or are you holding tension with the back? So rather than thinking about doing right or wrong, the first thing and the first stage is bring awareness to the body. Once you're able to bring awareness to what the body is doing currently, then you're able to change it. But if you're not kind of aware straight away, that's where it makes it difficult. So the first thing I'd say is bring awareness to the legs. Don't try to do something with the expectation that it's going to work if you've never done it before. Rather than trying to go, why isn't this working when I do this? Have the theory of what happens when I do this. So it's more of an experimentation rather than an expectation. If you just go, okay, well, let's see what happens. Okay, well, if that's what happened after I done that, that's what it is. That's the controls. Whereas if you go, okay, why isn't this working when I do that? It's because that's not how it's done. So experiment, try to figure different things out and use the principles. But as I said, what I'm saying, it's not right or wrong. It's just a position. It's just there's multiple different ways to skin a cat. Heaps of them. So that's why.
Sorry.
Go on. Go.
There was another question which kind of goes on from this a little bit from Kim. Do you have any exercises that you do to strengthen your head-up flying now that we're all stuck at home and we have, and I guess not even now that we're stuck at home, just in general, is there any specific kind of flying, anything that you do personally?
Yeah, I don't do anything strength-wise. The more thing I do is more relaxation stuff, because the more I relax, the more I can feel the wind. It's the same in the tunnel. When I fly in the tunnel now, I feel like I'm meditating. There's no effort. There's no muscles. There's nothing. Rather than think of trying to go up and trying to hold yourself on the wind and trying to hold the wind, we can't hold the wind. There's nothing to hold there. So we have to accept the fact that we're falling and present our body in a way that the wind pushes us where we want to go. Whereas if we try to push off the wind, our arms, our legs, they're just going to go straight through it. So you have to present the torso or the body or the arms in a way that the wind allows you to go that way. Same as the difference is with a plane has an engine. So the plane's engine thrust, or the plane's thrust and the way it moves is from having that forward drive from the engine, and then it does apply the drag, which then will push it in a way. Whereas our thrust is gravity. So we have to let that gravity take us, and rather than pushing force without like pushing on the wind or something like this, just letting it spill. So I'll go back to sharing. This is a good question. So I'll go just back to that last footage we were watching of Antonio, and I'll show you what I mean, because you can really see the really subtle inputs in his legs to see exactly what I'm talking about with this. So if we're talking about the gaining lift, okay, so at this point, he's actually steering with the legs and the feet here. Can you all see the feet where the thing is? I'm guessing. Yep. No, yep. He's controlling them. The arms, nothing's happening here. So just watch, real small. There's super small movements. So all the controlling is being done just with these feet here. If he points his toes, it's going to give him that drive. And because what's happening with the sole of the shoe, it's starting to slowly match the same angle as the calf. And that's what starts driving him forward. So all the controls are done with the feet. And the arms are just relaxed. They're just flopping. It's just like a streamer in the wind. Literally, it's those head up floppy men flopping around.
Yeah,
like a head up floppy.
In a way, kind of what you're saying is it's not about being super strong, more body aware.
No. Body aware, yeah. There's no strength. So the thing I can recommend, yoga, meditation, swimming in the pool. Swimming is massively helpful. If you learn to go in the pool and swim and use fluid dynamics, it's the same as aerodynamics. Aerodynamics is just, sorry, I'll take that screen share off again. Yep, there we go. Fluid dynamics is just a thicker version of aerodynamics. So with fluid dynamics, we can push off it and we can get that thrust because we can scoop it. Whereas with aerodynamics, we can't do that as much, but it really, really, really helps. The more you spend time in the water, the more you learn how to flow and move your body within that like a fish, the better and easier it's going to be for that, for sure.
Yeah, nice, man. We've got another couple of questions here. There's one from Actual. Is there a limit to head up tracking versus head down tracking in terms of the range you can achieve?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Short answer, yes. We're only just discovering this now. So that jump that you watched here previously of me and Antonio, the one I just showed you, we were getting, that was the flattest I've ever gone. We got about a minute 15 free fall on that jump.
Yeah.
Which for a head up jump is a lot. Usually we're getting about 45 seconds, 40 seconds for a head up jump. But because we're starting to go flatter, we're getting about, on the Dakuna, I wish the Dakuna, the cloud's down at the moment. It's not working at the moment because we're upgrading it currently. And I had a jump where we filmed that and the graph looked like it was a 45-degree angle. Yeah. And that's why I want to do this more on tracking, because these are the controls rather than vertical head up angles, because the controls are slightly different. The angles you can get away with everything from arching and all this kind of stuff, whereas not so much tracking. But the controls for tracking, it works perfect for vertical as well. Absolutely perfect.
Another question from Andrew. This is more comical, I guess. How do you tell a VFS flyer to relax when head up moving? Give me a secret apart from relaxing. I think you kind of covered that before with the exercises that you go through, yoga, meditation.
To be honest, you could relax in VFS as well, hey? Like, literally, I'm gonna digress slightly. I don't know how this is going to go because I'm showing it from a phone to a computer screen. You'll have to. Can you see that?
Yep, we can see
so
that.
That's the burble. Essentially what we're doing is we are only manipulating the burble. once you are relaxed and you can feel the burble, it's really shit because it's you just start slipping. I don't think you can see that properly.
No, we can see it. You can see it.
Cool. So all you're doing is extending that. Now you'll see if I do this kind of shape, a lot of turbulence really starts to form. And when that starts forming, you're going to start getting a lot of bouncing around and wobbling and instability. So when you can feel this slipstream, your arm can stay relaxed because all you're doing is you're slowly pushing on it. A really good experiment to do this, stick your hand out the car window and stick it behind the mirror. So don't put it out the window, but stick it behind the mirror and slowly put your hand just outside that mirror. And when it comes and you feel that air pressure, don't try to keep your hand there. Let it blow back and find it until you can feel that ridge where you can feel that slipstream, just the same as when you get a hose and you stick your thumb over it and you can see how the hose gets out to make it like it's more like a cone. And then you can start lifting your thumb off a little bit. It's the same as that. All we're doing is we're just manipulating the burble, which allows us to move through the air. So that's why by staying relaxed, and that's why I don't like saying relaxed, because I think relaxed is a shit term. It's a good question. How do you relax? Search for that tension in your body, relax, and then search for the burble. Find where the dead spot is, where there's no wind. Find where the air's rushing past, back off, and just run that thin line between where it is.
Righto, Mason, we've got a few more questions. We've only got 3 minutes, so we'll try and nut through a few more.
Oh, shit. That's quick, yeah.
Yeah, it does, eh? How do you take head up flying from the tunnel outside? What do I need to expect to be different from head up flying in the tunnel versus the sky? What can they expect?
I don't know personally. Like I found it easier. My head up sucked before I went to the tunnel. I went to the tunnel, I came back to the sky, and I could do it. So I couldn't do it to this extent of what it is now, but low speed, if you do low speed head up in the tunnel, that's the key. If you can do low speed in the tunnel, it's going to help your head up in the sky. If you only do high speed head up, that's what's going to take a fair bit.
Yeah. We'll try and get through maybe just one more. Sorry guys, if you've asked a question, they're loading up. We're blitzing through time here. From Bassam, where, and then can you read the group chat, Mason? I'm struggling with this one. Where your body power can be an advantage in head up flying. Then I don't really understand that.
Where your body power
can be an advantage in head up.
Nah, I'm confused at that one. Sorry. I don't know.
Listen, guys, since we're running out of time, hey Maria here.
Hello.
Listen, since we're running out of time, I wanted to raise a question, Mason. If do you want to take this up on Facebook Live after for a little busy session, 10 minutes?
I might. What I was actually intending to do as well, guys, is put this up on. I was going to make a bunch of YouTube videos as well with how-tos and explain all this stuff in depth. And I was going to start sticking it up on Facebook too, so that way everyone can see it. They can see all the different things and run through it. And if anyone has questions, like just send me a message. Hey, like. I've also got nothing to do at the moment.
So. As well, don't you?
Yeah, I've got the Down Under Dynamics page, so hop on there and have a look. I'll stick everything on there, and I'll also link this one to these guys as well, so they can share this exact one. But it does seem like there's a lot of questions. I can see a lot of them coming through now.
If your question wasn't answered, you can go to Facebook and find Down Under Dynamics, and that's Mason's page, and ask him the questions there. I'm sure he'll be happy to help and
more than happy. Like I literally only got through probably a quarter of what I intended to do, so. I'll do a really in-depth one with this, so that way you can rewind, fast forward, and have a look at everything.
We're probably about out of time, guys. So before we get cut off, thank you everyone for joining and listening to Mason. I definitely learned something. I hope you guys all did too.
Cheers, bro. Well, everybody here with us a little bit. Hello.
So cheers, guys, and thank you very much, Mason. That was awesome. I learned something as well.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much, Mason.
Cheers, mate.